So what we want to do today is to show you some of the things that we've been working on, give you kind of an overview. We've got lots more demos to show off this year than we've had in the past. Let's jump right in. So if you go to the next slide, Lauren, we want to make sure everybody's aware, which they probably are at this point, that there is a code of conduct for this conference. If you witness anything or feel like you have received any sort of inappropriate behavior, you can follow the links that are on the main page from the web page, and there'll be a list of folks in there who you can reach out to talk about that. And we do encourage you to do that because we want to make sure that we are aware and doing something about this and not just kind of letting it pass. So in this session, let's be friendly and open and welcome to receive questions and discussion, and appreciate that attitude from everybody. Okay, next slide. This talk is being recorded. Thanks to Blake, I remembered to start recording it. So if you do not wish to be on the video at all, go ahead and turn your video off. But this will be shared on YouTube, and we'll share it with some of our other networks who aren't able to attend the PCW so that they can get this overview as well and hear the discussion. Okay, next slide. So for the session today, I'm going to be chairing, and well, as best as I can. We have a Slack channel. If everybody could try to focus their questions in the Slack channel, it'll be a little easier for us to monitor and to save and continue the discussion afterwards. Thanks to Artis Harold, who's going to be monitoring that Slack channel. Once we get towards the end, you can feel free to raise your hand in Slack, and we can just move forward with the discussion at that point. Stephanie is going to keep some notes for us. Maybe she can add the link to that Google Sheet into the Slack channel, and anybody can add anything that they want, but we'll try to capture some of your comments and questions so that we can take them forward with us. Next slide, please. So we'll go around and do some introductions for the EPO team here, and then I'll give a presentation. You can see the slides on the session page. We also link to a demo that gives you some experience with the interactive data-driven activities that we're going to be introducing, and we'd love to get your feedback. Those are really exciting. I'm very excited to reveal those to the world and be able to share them with you today. So I'm going to ask now for the EPO team to unmute, seems like a weird word, to show themselves on their video, and we'll just go around. I'll call on people and you can introduce yourself and let people know what you do. So let's start with Artis.
Hi, I'm Artis Harold. I'm the education specialist, and I'll be monitoring the Slack channel for your questions today.
About Kristen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Metzger. I'm the science writer, and I work with the EPO team as well as the communications team.
Lauren.
Okay, my name is, I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself while I was sharing my screen. I'm the deputy head of EPO and also the astronomer on the team. So I help contribute with to the science expertise of the team and the content that we're building.
Blake.
I'm the technical lead of the EPO development team.
And Jose.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jose Pinto. I'm the web designer.
And I see that Rampal's on the call. So if Rampal, you want to introduce yourself, not as a member of the EPO team, but someone we work very closely with in the communications department.
Yeah, hi everyone. I manage communications for the construction project, and most of you have probably heard enough from me.
Thanks, everybody. And I'm Amanda Bauer. I'm the head of the education and public outreach team. I'm also the deputy director for Rubin operations. So I split my time between those two tasks. Okay, let's get moving. Next slide, please. So here's my sort of one slide summary of what the education and public outreach group is. Our mission is to provide online data-driven experiences that are accessible and approachable, adding real-world context and opportunities for people to engage with both Rubin Observatory and explore the universe. So I want to point out a couple pieces there. We have strategically built an online program, which turns out is advantageous in terms of the pandemic, but also a bit sad that we can't just like launch everything right now while everybody's still stuck in the pandemic. So we are building a public-facing website that will be launching when we move into operations, interactive data experiences that are powered in the browser. that we'll talk a lot about later. A sky viewer, which is an interactive way to move around the color COAD image of the Rubin Observatory and also get some tours of different exciting objects that are in that view. There's classroom activities and support materials, citizen science infrastructure, communications and social media strategies, and free multimedia resources. So throughout this talk, we'll go through each of these in turn. And just to reiterate, we will enter operations earlier than the rest of the Rubin project. We will start in fiscal year 2022, so right in October next year. We'll launch this new website, and there will be a phased rollout of all of these different activities. Not all of them can really be launched fully to their full potential without Rubin data, but we're using precursor data and some simulations to really make these available as quick as we can. Next slide, please. Throughout this presentation, I see we've got kind of a range of people who are both scientists and folks that are active in the outreach and communication community. So throughout this presentation, I sort of highlight things in orange that are specifically opportunities for the science community to start to get involved with some of the activities that we're doing and building relationships as we move forward into launching operations. One thing that I'll note is during construction, the EPO team is separate from the Rubin communications team. So the head of the communications team, they're the ones who you receive emails from, who are leading all of the communication to our scientists and stakeholders. The construction team for EPO is building the infrastructure, and we're slowly building up to then putting out our strategy around social media and actually engaging with the public. Okay, next slide. So here's our full team, a couple people you didn't get to meet today. With admin support and our project controls, but we're also hiring, some of you have heard that a couple times from me now, we're hiring a senior web developer to help develop these activities through to the end of construction and continue into operations. So please spread that news far and wide for anybody that you think might be interested in joining this team and is excited about science and the public. Next slide. Here is our mission statement again, just to reiterate, but I already went through it. So next slide. How are we actually going to make that happen? So what we're doing is we are strategically trying to build a program with activities that are accessible, that are interesting, that are engaging, and that are capable of reaching a large audience. So we are designing these activities with the public in mind, with non-specialists in mind. We're not just trying to say, here's a tool researchers use, go and you should be able to know how to use it. We've found in some of our research that that's not the case. And so we've really spent a long time building up a team with the skills to be able to build these, we're calling them widgets, these interactive tools that allow for interactions that you're kind of familiar with in the world of Instagram and all of these other social media tools. So they're accessible. They are, you can use them on your phone. Well, not just yet, but you will be able to by the time we get to that part in our development. Most people are not going to be reaching out and finding Rubin education and outreach activities by, opening up their laptop and being like, so what's Rubin been doing? They're going to be scrolling through social media. They're going to be on their phone. They're going to hear something from somebody else. And so they're going to go through it and access it initially by their phone. And we want to make sure that we're available and accessible to that group in a way that some other activities, if they weren't mobile first or mobile friendly, wouldn't be. Interesting, we're really thinking about trying to provide narratives around the data so that the scientific discoveries become relevant for people's general experiences and where they are in their life and what they've gone through. So curating some of the alert streams, making profiles of individuals across the project who are contributing to its success, and then sharing news about these exciting discoveries. We want it to be engaging, so really encouraging these interactions and linking experiences across the website, promoting the citizen science projects, images, making everything shareable on social media, really going out into the community where people already have communities online and engaging with them there. And capable of reaching a large audience, we are building this online program which adds the potential to reach anybody who has a cell phone or who has the internet. And so making sure that these are free, that we can support unpredictable numbers of folks who can come and visit, and that they really are built for everyone in a stable way. Okay, next Next slide, please. So now to talk a little bit about the specific audiences, we have been building for the audiences of formal education. So educators at the middle school, high school, or college intro level. So that's sort of like teenagers and college non-science majors. Science interested general public, citizen science, principal investigators, so the people, scientists who can use citizen science to further their scientific ideas, and then informal science centers, museums, and things like that. Next slide. Here I've got some specific aspects of things that we're developing. You can see the dots. The main audience that they are built for is sort of their column that they're in, but then we very rarely build a thing that's only for one of these audiences. So we really try to think about how they can reach lots of different people, and that's indicated by the little colored dots underneath them. So I'll go through sort of audience by audience and give you an idea of what we're building for each of these audiences. So next slide, please. We'll start with science interested general public. Next. So the public facing website, you can see a couple screenshots of the current design. We've got this prototyped right now. We're going through different phases of user testing and making sure people can find the information that they need to find on it. There was all of the relevant content for the general public. It's designed to be inclusive, so it meets web accessibility standards and mobile friendliness. The website features are interactive, they're engaging, they're embeddable within your social media, you can share them. And then we'll note that at the top, you sort of see a little For Scientists bar. So that's where, if scientists come and they, if you're interested in Rubin, you're going to come here first, but that's going to be the place where we can direct you to other places where you are going to get information for how to do your science with Rubin. And the community engagement team led by Melissa is really thinking through what it is that scientists need to know. The EPO team is really focused on the non-scientists and non-specialists and how can we get them engaged and excited about what's going on. Next slide. So the Sky Viewer is one example of these interactive tools. The goal of this app is to provide a fun and intuitive tool for the public that enables them to be able to explore Rubin discoveries. It's not just simply to present a research tool that exists. This tool allows you to kind of go in and zoom and pan and click through the whole color co-added survey. And it gives you a sense of scale for the full night sky. We're also offering little tours, so curated tours of objects of interest. So, the top 10 most distant galaxies in the universe, or the most exciting supernova, or the most recent supernova that we discovered, any kinds of tours that we think people might be interested in. And then you can click on individual objects and get some more information through those. So what we're seeing on the right is a little demo of the prototype that we've got functioning right now. And so you can choose whether or not you want to explore or whether or not you want to go on these guided tours. And you can see it looks really great. Jose's done some great design work with this. It's intuitive for how you move through there. We're working with the data management team right now on making sure that the full sky images that come through there have color coads that's sort of appropriate for a public audience as opposed to the color coads you might make for the scientific audience. And then we'll power this through an EPO data center, which is where the data actually gets stored. That's then shown through here. Okay, next slide, please. Currently, we're building this on top of Aladdin. It maximizes the ability to collaborate with other surveys, so you can use the data and tools that exist out there. And as I said, we're working with data management. So in orange here, we're exploring methods for making those color images. So it's a little bit of a different process than what we make for color coads for the public. And so we're really interested in scientists helping us out and getting involved in creating what that color coad image looks like for the public. Opportunity there for anybody interested. Okay, next slide. Communications goals and strategies. Our primary communications goal is really to promote the awareness of Rubin Observatory, the people involved, the science that's happening, and all of these activities that the EPO program is developing and launching. So our strategy centers around reaching and engaging with as broad and diverse an audience as we can. I hope in the PDF that's linked to the slides or to the session page, you can link on that strategy and go read it if you want. So we've got the communication strategy, what our main messages are. We're working to finalize the social media strategy right now for what we'll have in operations. And those documents will all be available for everybody if they're interested. Our implementation plan is in development. So how do we actually achieve these major goals that we have for our communications? We're slowly ramping up the communications. So you'll see a little bit of a different flavor in some of the stuff coming out of Ruben's social media accounts over the next year. Okay, next. Staff profiles. One of the things we want to do is really highlight the people who are building the observatory and are making the scientific discoveries. So there's a whole section of the website that's dedicated to featuring profiles of the staff and scientists and showcasing their work. We're really interested in featuring people and voices who typically aren't heard. And we're trying to make it as easy as possible for those voices to be heard. So in the next year, we're going to be asking for some volunteers and maybe nominations of your peers to be featured as some of these staff profiles that we can build up so that they're ready for when we launch into operations. Next. Okay, so moving on a little bit into some of the interactive data-driven tools that I've been talking about. Next. These are browser-based tools for directly interacting with real astronomical data, and they're designed around actions that are familiar to a typical user. So let's see, you can see the video that's happening on the right. So in this case, this is an example from one of our educational investigations where people are looking through images of a galaxy and they identify when supernova pops up. So we do a time series of videos. So they click on the galaxy, they click on the supernova when they identify it, and then it takes you through how to calculate things like the distance and the brightness. And then you get to actively put your point on the Hubble diagram, and then the full educational activity takes you through how do you go from there to interpreting the Hubble plot, to understanding that the universe expands. And so we go from here's an actual astronomical image to you have now an intuitive understanding of how we know that the universe expands. And so once we've got a whole suite of these different kinds of activities that we build up. Okay, we can go to the next slide, Lauren. Here's some other examples. The solar system is there on the right side, so you can see this little 3D solar system model. And then on the left, we show you how we can plot light curves, and then you put some supernova curves on top of that. You identify where the maximum of the curve is. You can determine the distance to these supernovae. So throughout the website, these exist currently inside of our educational program, but they will also be able to be pulled out and embedded in other activities. So you can imagine that when there's a news item that comes out in scientific discovery, you can use some of these tools to really transform a passive experience like reading an article on the website into an interactive one where you can really go through the steps of how one determines what type of object this was in the solar system by looking at its colors and how it actually moved around. Okay, next slide. So digging a little bit deeper into that formal education program, the goal here is to bring these intuitive tools into the classroom, into a typical classroom. So we wanted to make sure that these were broader ranging, so educators could feel confident bringing these tools into their classroom without needing an astronomer or without needing to kind of know much about coding or anything about coding. And we also heard from educators that they have firewalls and they can't download data, they can't maintain software. And so the goal was to build these completely powered in the browser. So all you do is go to a URL and then everything happens there. And the educator can just bring these into their classroom. These activities are focused for middle, high school, and college introductory classes. Each activity lasts about 1 to 2 hours, so you can do it within a classroom period or maybe a lab session or at home. These go through progressive concepts and tasks to help the students get from here's some kind of astronomical data into the big idea of astronomy or physics that we lead them through. So anybody can use these. And one of the keys is that we're doing a lot of user testing. Artis has led a very thorough program of user testing and pilot testing with different educators and students to make sure that these are engaging, that they work with the kind of technologies that are in the classroom. You've got Chromebooks, you've got iPads, not everybody has their own machine. People definitely do not have, a single laptop for every single student in the average classroom. So we're really trying to make sure that these are usable and accessible to all types of classrooms around. Next slide. And so here's a couple screenshots of the components of the formal education program. So we have in total a suite of about 8 investigations is what we call them. We're going to launch with 1 or 2 at the beginning of October 2022. Each investigation, as I said, lasts about 1 to 2 hours. There's included in the package for support materials for the teacher is a teacher guide. There's assessment materials, so you can help understand what the student is gaining through doing the investigations. All these activities are tied to the US curriculum standards, so NGSS, and also the Curriculum Nacional in Chile. They'll all be available in both English and Spanish. There's a single website that you'll go to that will access all of these things. And then we'll also be offering professional development for educators so that they feel confident in the astronomy concepts and the actual technology to be able to bring it into their classroom. Next. And here's just a list of the investigations. What we're hoping to do is launch with surveying the solar system first, since that is one that is covered in lots of curriculum across those age groups, and then probably expanding universe will be the second one that we do. So look out for those and starting next year around 2022 October. So next slide. If you would like to explore some of these demos yourself, we've got this URL. You can go to epodemo.netlify.app, and it's sort of snippets from different ones of those educational investigations, and you can go through and just see what those interactions look like. We're happy to receive feedback. They're super fun to go through. I got to watch my teenage nephew go through it the other day, and it was pretty fun. Just like I didn't have to explain anything to him other than like the big concepts. It was super fun. So feel free to go through that at any time and give us comments now or anytime in the future. For astronomy review, we have been working really diligently to produce content that accurately represents the observatory and its science, but we recognize that we're not content experts in every single aspect of science that the observatory is going to be doing. And so what we're going to be doing over the next year is inviting scientists to review the content related to their field of study. And so we'll have a charge, guide to the reviews, providing format to give feedback. You can get involved as little or as much as you want. So we'll be looking for volunteers probably in the order of the next several months or so. So we're really happy for people to come and help us out with that activity. Next. Okay, citizen science. This is, you can go to the next slide. We had a whole session on this yesterday. So if you weren't able to attend that, the recordings are up in the Slack channel and on the website. I'll say in brief that what we've decided to do is not create 1 or 2 citizen science projects that EPO leads, rather lean into the expertise of the scientists and create the infrastructure so that scientists can create any citizen science project with any Rubin data that they want. And we are really trying to craft the backend infrastructure and the workflow for the scientists to be as efficient and supportive as possible. So if you're a researcher, you go into the science platform as you would to access the data, you create a set of data that you want to have citizen science to start a project with, and then you have a Jupyter notebook that helps you take that data, send it over through the interwebs over to the Zooniverse, where you open it up inside of the project builder tool, and then you can build your project in the existing project builder tool that Zooniverse has been working to develop for over a decade now. And so what we'll be doing is offering some design guidance, offering some support for best practices for citizen science. We'll be working with the Rubin community engagement team, the operations team, on how to maximize science output and how to best engage with the public audiences to get the most from them in benefiting your science. So lots more information on that we had in the session yesterday, if you're interested. Next slide. Informal science centers. So we are producing a suite of free multimedia. We've got a set of about 20 short planetarium format video clips that feature a range of astrophysical concepts that Rubin Science will study. It gives you a little model of the Rubin Observatory, as you can see right there. These are available to science centers who know the visitors that they have the best. So we don't have a start to finish, here's a 30-minute video, but we've created these snippets that people can go and use at their pleasure to create the kind of videos that are appropriate for their audiences. We're also creating a set of short videos that are just sort of regular YouTube format that promote Rubin, that explain the science and some of the technologies that make it possible. And so these are under construction now. We should be able to launch with some set of them when we go into fiscal year, when we launch into operations next year. And then we will continue to develop these as we move forward and really see the science that's coming out of Rubin and LSST. Next. So to step back a bit, in the operations phase, I start over in about a year from now, so at the end of next September. The education and public outreach continues to work very closely with the Rubin operations departments. So Rubin operations has the observatory operations, data production, system performance, and then we highlight the education and public outreach team here. We work with all those departments, although the EPO program itself will be launched within the Noir Labs engagement and education team. So we mix with all the great outreach and communications folks that are at Gemini, that are at the former NOAO, CTIO. It's one big whole team that then gets to help launch this program and also get to generalize things for more Noir Lab data as well. So we're really excited to be able to work with that group and have that support as we launch this program that we've been spending several years developing and build up to the first data release for Rubin operations. Next. As far as a timeline goes, we are getting ready to start our final year of construction. We're going to be doing user testing on every aspect of our program to make sure that it's accessible, that it is what people are actually interested in, that people can find the types of things that they want to find when they visit the website or if they want to use the educational programs. I mentioned the astronomy review. That's going to be happening sometime, next 6 to 8 months. We'll be organizing that and putting it together. At the PCW next year, we're hoping to have a very very big celebration to celebrate the achievement of actually finishing this project. We'll see if we get to do it in person. That would be fantastic because I'd love to have a little champagne toast with everyone. And then October 2022 is when we launch our initial rollout of these activities. And then from that point on, the Rubin EPO team shifts into Noir Lab CEE. We are in full operations and we are ready to receive all the exciting science and help communicate that for the science community. Next slide, please. So how can the scientific community get involved? How can any of you who are interested in general in outreach and education communications work with us? Well, right now, we have a liaison with each of the science collaborations. So they're our first points of contact when we have a particular question about a science topic. In the present and near future, please join into the conversations that Stephanie has been leading through social media. Been ramping up several campaigns to get to know people and their connection with Rubin and get them to help network with each other. We would love to have some expertise in our color image creation that we're working through right now, help review the scientific content of the educational investigations and the website at large, and provide precursor data that supports some of the learning goals. Lauren, as the EPO scientist, has done a heroic effort to try to sift through data from every corner of the astronomical world to pull precursor data sets to power these things to help us build them and test them before we have Rubin data. And I'll tell you, astronomers are not consistent in how they release their data. So this is a big job. And we always use some help with experts in the field. We also generated a survey to try to build a network of scientists who we can reach out to beyond just the liaisons to each of the science collaborations. It just takes a few minutes. So if you want to go and fill that survey out for us, share it with your colleagues, that would be great. And we'd really appreciate that. Okay, so next slide. As we move into operations, we're going to be leaning on you, astronomers, to really help inspire some of the new content. We've even heard through this meeting, there are people who are, generating their own visualizations, or somebody put some sounds to some of the transient objects. And so those kinds of inspired ideas from a scientific perspective, if we know about them, we can really help work to make them more even broadly accessible to public audiences. We can offer that expertise, and we can also potentially put them onto our website to broaden the audience who gets to see these and interact with them. But we don't know about them unless folks tell us about them. And so we really look forward to building those relationships and have people reach out to us, suggesting any kind of visuals or graphics that could enhance communication about a particular topic, new results. Maybe you're not sure if a result could be a press release or could have a visualization. We're here to help. So reach out to us, reach out to your own university's public information officer, providing data sets to feature in our web tool, creating citizen science projects. We're here to help with that, and advertise and market and make them, help follow best practices for how to get the most out of those projects. Receiving science communication training. Maybe you're not so sure about your own presentation skills or how to effectively get your message across to any different audience, scientist or the public. We're here to help with that. We'll be providing some templates and support materials for presentations. Rand Powell does a great job, her team, in providing those right now. So we'll probably get into that game as we move into operations. And then using the educational investigations in your intro classes or in your own outreach presentations. These are tools for you to be able to get people engaged. And we also welcome recommendations for how we can best facilitate these relationships, or ideas that you might already have brewing or in existence. Next slide. So this is my summary slide again. What we've gone through today is the mission for the EPO to provide data-driven online experiences that are accessible and approachable. We add real-world context to these esoteric topics, and opportunities for people to engage with Rubin Observatory and explore the universe. At the right, you see a couple screenshots of the mobile version of our website and the Sky Viewer app. And I list the topics that we went through today that we are getting ready to roll out once we move into operations in October 2022. Next slide. So thank you very much. I'll remind you of the links that I shared, the EPO survey at the top for scientists or anybody interested in working with us. The interactive demo link will take feedback in any form, anytime you want. I just put a couple folks on the right, specifically emails of Lauren, who's the EPO scientist, and Stephanie Deppe, social media content specialist, also has an astronomy background. So thank you very much, and happy to go through any kind of questions. You can raise your hand and I'll ask artists to read out some of the ones that are on Slack. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, Amanda. Amanda, we have just one question right now on Slack, and it's from Nino Cochiara, and he says, can you say a few words on how you plan to engage institutions that serve historically marginalized groups, Hispanic, Black, and Indigenous? The tools and lesson plans are amazing, but these educators, as seen outside the astronomy sphere, will not naturally be attracted by them and use them.
Yeah. So I'll say a word and I'll respond as well. So part of what we're doing right now during construction is trying to build networks with folks to help us to engage with us and us to engage with them as we're doing our user testing and pilot testing, and making sure that what we're building is something that they feel comfortable or want to bring into their classroom. And so there's other aspects of it that Artis is doing in trying to go to some of the major educator workshops and meetings and things like that to try to advertise these resources. And then we also had a couple in-person pilot testing workshops that Artis had been organizing and setting up to go to some historically Black colleges and various parts around the US, and then the pandemic hit. So that sort of changed those plans a little bit, and we've been modifying on the fly in order to continue to build up relationships with folks who we think, could really benefit from having a browser-based activity to be able to launch into their classroom. So I'll let Artis say more on that.
Yeah, thank you. I would say that how we started this strategy was we used traditional channels that educators subscribe to on social media. That's primarily Facebook groups. And we have posted notices of what we're doing and inviting people to join us with testing on a lot of Facebook groups. We also work through the National Science Teachers Association, the AAPT, the AAS, and we have done several workshops, online webinars, and such. As Amanda alluded to, we had a great plan to actually have some in-person workshops, but until we see how the landscape of the pandemic is evolving, right now we're going to stay virtual for a while. We really would welcome your ideas for partnerships and infrastructures in particular, to reach Indigenous people, to reach all girls institutions, as well as historically Black colleges and universities. We've had a good degree of success with Hispanic serving institutions already. Maybe that's because we're in the Southwest, I don't know. But we would really love your ideas, and especially at the pre-college level. There are a lot of highly organized organizations at the college level for those institutions, but not so much at the pre-college level.
Thanks, Artis. We have a reasonably small group here, so if you just want to unmute yourself, feel free. We're here for another 20 minutes.
There was another question that Nico posted in the Slack, and I'm not sure about NGSS science standards, whether the investigations have been checked and aligned with those. And that's sort of an interesting story. I thought Artis might want to comment on that.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Artis.
Sure. I will say we've done one better than align them. We've actually designed our education activities so that they work for that three-dimensional learning and assessment strategy. And so all of the suggestions for NGSS teaching, such as using a phenomena, having a scoring rubric with three-dimensional scoring guide, teacher guide, all of the activity itself, pre-test, post-test, it's all been designed with NGSS in mind.
So NGSS is the next generation science standards in the US. And I'll offer one more thing that Artis is going the extra mile and reaching out to the GSS group to actually let them review our activities for one of the investigations to see if we can get that stamp of approval from NGSS itself, which would be fantastic. It's hard for me to imagine much more than Artis has done already to get that across. So we're really looking forward to that. And then part of the work that we'll be doing in the next year is building that out for our Chilean audience as well. So really thinking about the curriculum nacional that is in Chile, and we'll be working with our Chilean EPO colleagues to ensure that we've got all the material there that would support educators across Chile to be able to bring these into their classroom.
I have a question about that, actually. It's about I remember I was a couple of years ago, was a Chilean colleague working from Santiago for EPO Rubin. And in the future, when we get on the operation, do you think that will be an EPO Chile team?
Yeah, so that's Claudia Reyes. She worked for us a few years based out of Santiago and did some really great work in establishing the kind of framework that we'd be working within for the curriculum standards in Chile. So since then, we've really been, she left a team, I think last year. And so since that time, we've been working on the English version of the activities and doing a lot of user testing with the English version. And so starting next year, we'll be working with the Noir Lab CEE team. They've got a handful of folks that are in Chile who are really excited to sort of get involved in this work and help us focus these activities in the Spanish language and for the Chilean curriculum and build up the networks there. So we definitely got started with that for a while. Then we kind of focused on English, and next year we'll be working with the Noir Lab colleagues to push that Chilean curriculum forward with these activities.
Thank you. That will be great. It's amazing how many people here in Chile are very exciting to know about us, to know about, well, you know, I'm talking about the people that related to me, my family, and some friends say, hey, when will be available the picture? When we will see the nice picture of the universe that your camera will take? So I think that that will be an enthusiastic audience for EPO during the operation of Rubin here in Chile.
Fantastic. We are very excited about it too. Thanks, Giovanni.
May I jump in with questions? Hi, this is Charles Liu. First of all, I must have spaced out when Stephanie introduced herself. Did Stephanie get an introduction somewhere between Lauren and Artis? Because I totally missed it. But
unless I spaced out. Stephanie, did I forget to call on you in the intro?
Yeah, I did not introduce myself.
Meet
Okay.
Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I am the astronomy content strategist, so I'm going to be running Rubin's social media.
Cool. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to be sure because I see Stephanie. Yeah. Anyway, so my questions come from my perspective on the Science Advisory Committee for Rubin. Being on the VRO SAC, we're thinking about things like what kind of resources do you need? Are you being sufficiently supported to do what you want to do? When operations begins or when commissioning signs or anything like that happen? Do you need data streams? What kind of real time? Things like that. So I kind of want to get a sense of that. I am sensing now over the past couple of days that EPO and CET, community engagement, are extremely important, far more important than perhaps the rest of the project generally understands. And so these are kind of larger questions about how, in your opinion and the team's opinion, the EPO is coming through. For example, it looks like you're going to have primary responsibility for a huge chunk of the forward-facing website, never mind the interface with scientists and things like that. Could you comment a little bit about that and in terms of strategizing for this coming year, especially, I guess, when the transition to Noir Lab starts to happen? Can you give me a sense of that sort of stuff, just from a project point of view? And maybe this is not the proper menu to have that conversation in depth, but just maybe a little bit. What do you think?
I'm happy to speak to that. I do think that EPO has a huge role in the public understanding of Rubin Observatory, especially as you point out, when we transition into the new website. We have been working very closely with Rampal and the communications team, and having the initiation of the community engagement team over the last year so that we can identify who is responsible for thinking about what scientists need, who is responsible for thinking about what the public needs, who is responsible for thinking about what our stakeholders and the agencies and the project itself needs. And from the public audience, it's EPO. From the stakeholders, it's Rampal, who overall coordinates all of that communication. And then Melissa and her team thinking about the scientists. Just having identified those teams and being able to coordinate with each other and just be specific about who the audience is that you're responsible for has just been a fantastic starting place. Now, being there's a lot of work to do over the next year as we transition into a new website, as we transition into Noir Lab as a whole, which is a big change for us, a big change for kind of everybody. And so I think at the moment we are very well supported. There are certainly some unknowns about the EPO functioning within Noir Lab, but I'm very positive about the fact that within that framework, we can do so much more. We can have a bigger impact than we could as an isolated team, just working over with Rubin. As your membership on the SAC allows the continuation of you seeing what's happening, it would be really great for you to keep an eye on what's going with Ruben and to ask about, hey, how's that Ruben EPO program going? Because it is going to live within Noir Lab. And so it's going to be seen as sort of Noir Lab's education and public outreach program that's focused on Ruben. But we do want to ensure that we successfully launch the Ruben program that we have been building through construction. So it'll be great to have interest from the community to kind of ensure and demonstrate the desire to make sure that that's successful as well. I do think that we have the support. I do think we've got some things to work on the next year to just work through what that transition looks like. And it's great to hear interest from you. So I don't know if maybe Rampal or Lauren or someone else wants to add anything to what I said.
I think you captured it really well. And Charles, you probably, it's similar to what you heard the other day in the Science Advisory Committee session that we had. We're working together already right now, which I think is a huge plus because, we still have time on our hands and we've just got to do the hard work of figuring out how this all fits together and how we all work together. But, like I said, the positive is that we're starting already doing that now.
Very cool. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I'll have a couple questions about the content specific, but let me step back. And if anybody else has any questions or comments, let them go first, and then we can continue that.
All right, artists, do we have any comments anywhere?
We do not have anything new.
Okay, then I'll jump in. And artists, if anyone does have any comments, just interrupt. I see something in the chat. How could we support Summit EPO? Is that right?
Yep. Freddie, do you want to say a little bit more about what you're thinking about there?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, so I'm Freddie. I'm speaking from La Serena, always working on Summit for the construction of the observatory. And the question to the group is how we, the Summit team, can support the EPO activities, because I have been in contact in past months or years providing pictures, drone videos, little talks for what we do on that, but for the future, what is expected? Can we do more for the team?
Yeah, I think so. And the things that you have contributed so far are very much appreciated because they're just gorgeous footage that you're showing from the summit. I think you are already building up your relationship with Rampal and Kristen. That's who you sort of submit those things to. And I think between those two and Stephanie, as we move into operations, we might be able to streamline that relationship a bit in how we get materials from you and maybe some specific requests we have for you. One of the things that we want to do, hopefully we'll be able to do it before the end of our construction project, but it kind of depends on the progress on the summit, is really take some full footage of the entire completed building inside and out and build sort of a 3D tour of what the summit looks like and have that as kind of a web tool for people, since it's not a traditional telescope and people going up and doing observations, it's a survey scope. So we want to give people that kind of experience. And so some of the work that you've been doing so far, we might work with you to do that at a more official capacity as we move into operations. That's one idea. I see Rampal would like to add something else.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add that you were talking about the virtual tours, and we are also working on the physical tours that will take place once the observatory is in operation. So we're not talking until 2024, but we have started working on those already with CEE and Noir Lab. They're talking about writing scripts and deciding on routes that are taken throughout the facility, depending on what the focus of the physical meeting is and the audience of the physical meeting is, and things like that. Now, I've been on a couple of those tours myself, given by Eduardo and various people, and there's always such interesting nuggets of information in there. So we will be coming to you to get those interesting pieces of information that make the tour so much more interesting and engaging as we build those scripts for physical on-site tours that will take place in operations.
I'll also add just briefly that one of the focuses for me for social media is definitely showing the people behind everything. So like sorts of day in the life kinds of things of the summit team, like what it's like working up there, and those kinds of things is another idea for ways that you could support us.
Great, thank you. I will get in contact with you because I have some ideas about those virtual tools. Because I think we have the tools to do them. Actually, we did them before. We'll keep in contact.
Thanks, Freddie.
Okay, Charles, it looks like the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's not mine. I just want to ask questions of you all because you're the experts. It is tremendous work. I went to the NetLifey, is that how you pronounce it? NetLifey, the EPO demos?
Netlify.
Netlify. They're great module. I think it's cool. Will there be eventually the effort to make sure that the data stream comes into the EPO activities? In other words, will they be set up in such a way that a school can set up a month-long exercise where every few days they would go and see what's the latest, what's the newest, what the alert brokers have sent in. They can go and try to analyze or discuss after the first wave of analysis has happened, their opportunities to find discoveries and so forth. Is that built into EPO now? Or is that going to happen later with CEE when operations is actually happening and the alert brokers are actually sending their notifications?
So I'll offer you my thoughts and then allow Lauren or whoever else wants to chime in as well. So the alert brokers have just been announced. So we're just now kind of reaching out to understand what it is that they do and explicit use cases. So some of them might be features in the Sky Viewer, a tour of what people can do. We'll probably have some sort of dashboard that's like counters of the things, the different kinds of things that have been discovered. And then I think citizen science is also another opportunity where classrooms can really contribute to that. So we haven't explicitly developed the educational component of the potential for what we can do with citizen science. So far, we've really been focusing on constructing the infrastructure that's underlying making this possible. But I know Zooniverse and Adler Planetarium, for instance, have been working really closely to tie some curriculum aspects and some of those aspects of kind of discovery and follow along within their program. So from my perspective, we don't have all the answers for how the alert stream is going to be incorporated yet because it's still evolving. We've definitely got some ideas, and I think you're absolutely right. Once we move into CE, we're sort of not constrained by having to deliver on the official requirements of the construction project, and we're able to expand a little bit more in the operations phase, then these are absolutely some of the things I would like to explore with the alert stream. And then I'll let Lauren offer any more about specific use cases that she has in mind.
Yeah, just thinking that we are definitely already considering that connection between EPO and how we'll be getting data from DM and the operations teams in the future. And so in construction, actually building out that connection between the Rubin Science platform and where they're storing their data and the EPO data center, which will be housing the data for these investigations. And then working in some way of balancing, yes, like that we want the new discoveries, but that a lot of curation went into this data so that students can specifically answer the questions for some of these investigations as well. So like balancing that curation with wanting to update the data as much as possible, I think is what we're going to have to figure out once we move into operations and we see what the data coming in looks like.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the infrastructure of receiving alerts and so forth will be built into the EPO that you're constructing right now, which is really terrific. And I would just say that about the brokers, I know it's brand new, but both Alerce in Chile and Antares in Tucson are well mature and in great shape to do something. And then the Caltech folks developing the Babamul, which is very, very dynamic. Possibly if you all are interested in pulling your own kind of custom module, that's great. The Pit Google folks want to work that just naming all the event brokers, obviously, but they're really, really good. And I really would love to see that happen because you have such an opportunity to turn this EPO into true 21st century EPO instead of sort of canned labs that populate Compadre and everywhere else. You can actually do real science, not just well, anyway, I don't want to tell you how to do your job.
Exactly.
You guys have
we have that all on our schedule for this year to think about how we're integrating with the other
you're
brokers.
already on there. So it sounds like you're already on top of it. So I shouldn't go any further on it.
No, but it's a great question. Thanks.
I can offer two other things. So we are in touch with the ZTF team as well, who's sort of the first generation of alerts. They have some of the same issues we do. They've only got a couple filters. The actual alert image is not terribly exciting. So, how do you make this really exciting for the public? So we're definitely in close contact with them to sort of see where they are finding success since they're doing it now, and we can sort of build on that. And then, we've worked already with Antares in particular, and it's been successful and challenging in that they are actively developing. So, we can tie into something that they've developed, but then they go off and they build something else. And so the code breaks. We're working on those relationships, but we also don't want to get ahead of ourselves when things are actively being developed and we're leaning on and we're relying on that code to work. So
great,
it's a balance.
thanks. No, it really is. Yeah, but it's great. I'm glad to hear that that's integrated. And then I have a social media question in specific. What is the plan right now in terms of construction? YouTube channel, Twitter feed, TikTok type things. Is that wrapped in at the moment in the construction, or is that really going to be developed more when operations starts and you have real-time stuff that Noir Lab and CEE are going to be involved in doing?
Maybe Stephanie, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so right now we're a little bit tied by the construction budget and where the money comes from. So we can't actually do social media so much right now, but we can build up our strategy and our plans for what we are going to do with social media. And so that's currently what we're doing. And as we ramp up toward the end of construction and into operations, you'll see a lot more happening on our social media over the next year as we ramp up into operations. That is the plan. The plan is not currently TikTok, but we will, I think, probably try out those sorts of capabilities that, say, Instagram, for example, has started incorporating, and try it out there and then make the decision later whether or not to join TikTok. Because TikTok scares me a little bit.
It scares us all a little bit, yeah. But
we are very aware of the fact that that is where a lot of people are, and especially a lot of young people are. And so we're very aware of that.
Yeah, but YouTube and Instagram are fine. I mean, imagine if we had a Ruben Finsta. That would be the weirdest thing, but kind of fun. Never mind. Okay, so that's in there, and that's cool. And I don't, you don't need me to tell you how the social media is so important and increasingly important in both formal and informal education. So seeing that built into the infrastructure would make me very happy also. And you guys are on top of that. So enough said. Bottom line is, I just think this is great. You guys are doing wonderfully, and I'm very happy to hear that. And like I said, from my point of view, both from my scientist hat and my educator hat and my SAC hat, I want to be sure you guys are all, going where you want to go. And I know that right now, all of us are less resourced than we wish we could be. But if there are things that are important, let the SAC know, and let us find ways to work to help you do the cool stuff that you're doing. I think it's really important.
Yeah, one thing that I haven't thought about yet, the EPO does get visibility now with Ruben and the SAC and some of the other advisory committees and boards. And I feel like we're very well supported in construction. We've got plenty of financial support and willingness from across the project and the science community to help us. And I don't know how the Ruben EPO group fits into the SAC's to operations, since it will be functioning through Noir Lab and will be kind of the Rubin directorate will be advisory and certainly be interested and will have interactions with the rest of the departments, but functionally will be within CEE and Noir Lab. So that might be something for the SAC to think about. How do you keep tabs on that? How do you keep aware of what's going on with that program after, during, and after that transition happens? Do we go fully for, Noir Lab advisory committees and management boards, or is there some connection to the Rubin operations oversight committee? That would be something that I'd be interested for you to take back to that group and think about.
Good idea. Thank you.
Okay, so we're at the bottom of the lesson. I want to thank everybody for your participation very much. Charles, it's great to hear your feedback. And if you have any other questions or comments, feel free to put them in the Slack channel. We'll keep an eye on that. If you want links to anything, we'll keep them there and you can give us feedback. If you want to get involved, please fill out that survey that we posted and we can get in touch with you. Just it gives you the opportunity to let us know what ideas you have or what you want to know about. And we really appreciate your attention and time, everybody.
Thank you.